all we do is the roller sits right on the table, right like that, and and the bearing is going to follow the guides on our dovetail jig. Okay, that side's done. We're doing a pretty narrow drawer, and you always remember the inside of your drawer, okay? The insides of your drawers always go to the inside of the jig, all right? Makes it very simple to use. We'll come into here, cut the dovetails on the other side. And I don't know if you noticed right there, if that came up just a little bit right there, I didn't have that quite tight, so I think we're going to be all right. But let's just tighten that down a little tighter. And make sure, it's very important, that that stock stays right in touch with those teeth. We cleared it out just a little bit. All right. So that's the inside of our drawer. We're going to do the same thing with our other drawer side, of course. Okay. Clamp it down. Cut it. Flip it over. Inside stays to the inside of the jig. Make sure we're flush. Tighten up, and we'll make our last cuts here. Okay, we're done with the dovetail jig. Excuse me, the dovetail bit. Now, we got to change bits. We're going to stick a pattern bit in, okay, to cut the fronts and the backs. And the nice thing about our two sets of bits on this jig right here also, here's the beauty of it. We can change bits. All we have to do is pull that bit out, stick our pattern bit in on our rubber grommet, and we're automatically set to the correct height, right like that. Snug her up. Put our insert ring in, and we're ready to start cutting that quickly, the fronts and the backs of the drawers on the other side of the jig now. Okay, we don't move this position of this stop. That comes over, sets, and again, we clamp. All right, now, when we do this, there's a bearing on here too. I always start on the left side over here, and I'm going to come into here on the bearing even and cut into here, come down this one, come here. And here, I don't want to come here first. I want to come out here and clean the outside so I don't get any chipping done. So if you got something that's in an open space like this, come to the outside first and clear that out, and then come on the inside. You'll watch how we do it here. Okay, same thing again. We'll flip that pup over, stick her down. Make sure you're tight against the stop and tight against the bottom every time. You know, one good way to operate this thing, some people, we used to have handles on this jig, and you take the handles and you had no control. So I took the handles off, and what I like is if you grab this thing like this, you don't have much control, but if you take the palms of your hands and lay on the table, you have a lot more control of the situation. All right, so we've got those cut. This is the front of our drawer, and here's how they work. Here's how a through dovetail works. What we'll do is pull this out, and when you actually put these together, we'll cut the grooves for our bottom later. We'll show you how we do that. But all you do is put a little bit of glue on all these teeth, inside of here a little bit, and we'll just hammer the two together, right like this. We'll just come into here. And you can see it makes a nice dovetail. And you got a little bit proud there that you can sand off. And we'll do that on all 4 sides. And before we assemble it though, we're going to cut the groove in the bottom. When we cut the groove in the bottom now, for our plywood floor here, we want to come up 1/2 of an inch from the bottom of the drawer to the start of the plywood floor, 1/2 inch there. So let's cut a 1/4 inch groove on all the bottom of all these drawers. Okay, you can see we've cut the grooves, or the dados, in the bottom for our bottoms of our drawers. And what we've done then is we've actually glued up that door. When I hammered that together, we glued up the drawer. Now, what we did on the back, we didn't put the bottom in yet. On the back of the drawer, we cut off 3/4 of an inch. And the reason why is because now we can take that drawer bottom in later and slide it in right like that. And then we can take and glue underneath here. We take and air nail that or screw it, whatever you want, and your drawer is in there. Now, why do we do that? Well, with the drawer slides we use, these Blue Motion tandem slides, you have to have the back of the drawer clearance. What we used to do is just notch out an area for each one of these slides here. But we found it's a lot easier and quicker to do it this way. And the reason you need the clearance now is because these drawers, you'll find out the slides have 2 little pins back here. We drilled 2 little holes right here. Okay, those line up. Also, you can see our clips here to clip the door on. So you can take this drawer on, set it down on there, push it in, it locks in those 2 clips. Now I pull it out, full extension. And what's nice about these drawer slides, you shove them in the last 2 or 3 inches, they close very quietly. Watch, just like that. So they're very nice drawer slides, the ultimate drawer slides. So what we're going to do, we'll take this out, is we're going to show you next how we have our finished drawer here, how we're going to install these slides into the cabinet we're building. Okay, we've got our drawer here now. We're ready to set our drawer slides into our cabinet. But before we do that, we want to take our slides. We have a left-hand and a right-hand slide. And what we're going to do is set the slide on the bottom of the drawer there with that back. See how it recesses in there like that? And there's that little point. Right here is that little point that has to go inside the drawer we have to drill a hole for. So the way I mark that is I just take my slide onto here and I'll bring it back and I'll shove it right like that. Okay, and you can see that little point. Okay, what we have to do there is drill a small 1/4 inch hole right like this. Just go deep enough, don't go through the drawer. Okay. We'll do that with the left side too now, the left drawer. We'll take that and we'll mark it. And we'll drill the hole for that. Okay, now we can get rid of our drawer slides. See, now those holes will slide in there, they'll line right in there, that which holds the back of the drawer. We're ready to install the drawer slides now. And remember, when we put our partition in here, we put the groove on this side so we're flush for this drawer slide here. Okay? But on this side, we have the outside of the cabinet out here, and we're not flush, so we have to build out. So if this is an 1.5 inch face frame and we're using 3/4 here, we have 3/4 left, so we take a piece of 3/4 inch stock. I always make it about 2 inches wide, and what we're going to do is build out the side of that cabinet so we're flush for our drawer slides, right like that. Okay? Now what we do is I'll usually just line that up in there and I'll take an air gun and I'll just air nail that. And when you do it, I also glue it. And we don't want to put any glue in the areas where the raised panel is at though. Okay, we're a little bit above the raised panel, so we can put a little bit of glue here, here. I'll put a little strip across the top there, we'll be fine. Okay. We're going to take our air gun, nailer, stick it right in here, line it up, right flush with the top right there, and come into here and pin nail it. Okay, we've got the side rail nailed there now and glued. Now the next thing we're ready to do is install our slides. And the slides on this top rail right here, we want them right flush with that top rail and parallel. And right, if we're flush with the top here, we want to make sure, I always come in a good strong 1/8 of an inch, even 3/16 there, so that my drawer slide gets all the way in. But how are we going to get that thing screwed to the side of the cabinet and keep it at level? Well, we make a little jig, very simple. Measure from the floor up to the top of here, which is 11 inches, right here. Cut a piece of wood and just set it in there like that, and that's our little gauge. Okay, so now I can set my slide right onto there. I bring her back about 3/16. Now I'll take it and screw in the side right here into the face frame, into the back. Put about 3 screws in each drawer slide. So I'm going to screw those screws in right now. And I always just do this by hand. If you got, this is a small area, so you're going to have to use a little screw gun. You get into some bigger drawers, and you can use a screw gun, a battery-operated drill. But this is you got to do this by hand right here. It takes a while. One thing I learned, I built this cabinet before, is this. If you really want to make it easy, you could install all your drawer slides, because you get down into here, you got to get on the floor and reach back in there. If you want to install all your drawer slides before you glue the back on, you could have all the screw holes set and then back all the slides out, but I find it just as easy to do it this way. So we'll continue screwing these in. Okay, our slides are both installed there now. Our drawer should be ready to go. Let's just make sure it fits. Sets up on top of our tracks right there. Slides in there. Okay, now what we got to do next is install these 2 clips in the front of the drawer. Okay, and they install right like that, side by side, right to the front. Bloom makes a little jig that you put in here and you drill the holes and it lines the holes up and everything, you know, but I don't think it's necessary to use it. I just take the 2 screws and a screwdriver, line them up in the corner, and put the 2 screws right in here like where they belong, right like that. And that's the nice thing about using soft maple as your drawer slides. A lot of guys use poplar too, but you can screw right into there just like that. Okay. So we'll install these 4 screws here now. Okay, we got those 2 clips installed now, and those 2 clips will clip onto the front of the drawer automatically. So all you do is pull your slides out, set that drawer flat on the slides, okay, and just shove the drawer front. What it does, it catches on those 2 clips right there. Now you can pull it out. That's what holds it in. Full extension. And we'll see how it works sliding with the last blue motion here. Just like that. Give her a little shove shut. And because we set it back 3/16 of an inch, our drawer front is right flush here. Okay. Now, what we got to do next is make our drawer front. And while we're making our drawer front, you know, one drawer front's the same as all of them. I'll show you how to make one drawer front. And then while we're doing it, we're also going to make a raised panel door in the middle. And like our raised panel door video, if our door opening here is 16 inches this way, we're going to make the door 17 inches, an inch bigger. If it's 12 inches here, we're going to go 13 inches here. So that's how big we make our door. And if you refer to our catalog, it tells you how to figure all the sizes of the door. But we'll get that out. We'll make our door and our drawer front on our router table, and then we'll install those 2. Okay, we're going to make that drawer front there for our cabinet right here. But before we make the drawer, let's make the door first, because that's the order you do. We're going to use our 6-piece cabinet making set here. And the order we want to use this, we want to make the door first and then the drawer, and I'll tell you why. Because the first bit we're going to use is the cope cutter to cut the copes on the ends of our rails. And that's the bit we have a jig to set to the perfect height for. Once it's set, all these bits follow automatically. If we use this bit for the drawer front first, we wouldn't know where to set it. So we know exactly where to set that bit with our jig. All right. So what we're going to do now, remember, we're going to, if we want to do it easy, bring that bit all the way up, and we can just tighten up that bit just like that. Okay. Now, the thickness of the wood that we're using now is 13/16. Let's put our zero clearance ring in here. The thickness of the wood we're using is 13/16. Remember our little setup jig, our easy set? We're going to come over here to 13/16. That's our cope cutter. Well, right here is our cope set, okay? So we're going to bring that right into here, and we got to set that bit so it corresponds with our jig. Right there. Once I get it set fairly close, I can take my micro adjuster here. Use my left hand so you can see what's going on here maybe. Right there. So you can see we got that set just to the perfect height. Okay? Once that bit is set now, we're going to lock that in position. We are ready to go, because when we make the other cut, the panel cut, this cut around our drawers, around our door edges, we don't have to change the height of the bit because these bits are all preset. Okay, so what we do next is take our straight edge on our bearing, remember? And we just pivot our fence. Fence is flush with the bearing. So simple to use this router table. Lock down and we're ready to go. Now, what we're doing is we're making that door, right? Here's our one style, here's our other style, and our two rails. We're going to cut the copes on the ends. Remember, put the good side down on all these pieces. This bit is designed to cut the copes. Now, remember what I said earlier, a lot of people like to use a miter gauge. Well, we don't, because the bearing is where all the accuracies occurs. So what we need, instead of a miter gauge, what we use is a piece of wood. This is square, just like a miter gauge. We're going to take that and push it through with that board. But to make it safer, well, you just take a push block. We got hundreds of jigs in our shop that we make with these little push blocks like this. And what we're going to do is take and make a little jig right like this. I'll just take a screw. These are face frame screws that we use in our pocket holes, and we'll just screw right into that block. Okay, and what we have now is our own miter gauge push block. It does two things. It keeps the board square, and it prevents chip out at the back of the cut. All right, so we're going to turn our router on here now and make our cuts. Okay, right there's our two cope cuts. No chip out occurring because we're coming right behind with that backer. Now, the next thing we need to do is change bits, and we're going to go with the grain. Okay, so we're going to pivot our fence out of the way, take our insert out, and remember, changing bits, very simple. Now we don't want to move the router up or down, so I'm going to take my left hand, lock the spindle lock, take that bit out, and we're going to stick the pattern bit in. That's the bit that goes with the grain. On our rubber grommet, snug it in, ready to go. That's how easy it is to make your doors. My fence comes back, drops into my pivot point right there. And again, I take a straight edge. My bearing's on the top here. Pivot that fence flush with the bearing, lock down my fence. Now I'm ready to go with the grain. Okay? We're also going to take our stiles and go with the grain there. What we're doing is cutting this cut, this cut, this cut, and this cut. Okay, on this now, all we're going to do is use a simple push block. So let me get my push block. Okay, here's our push block, and we're going to make our cuts, pattern cuts. Okay, right there's our two stiles. Here's our top rail. Right in here, it locks in here. And here's our bottom rail. We'll lock in right here. Okay, the only thing we have left to do now, just up here so I can see it, is make the panel to fit in the middle. Okay? To do that, that requires the next bit out of our set, and that's the raised panel bit. Okay? So let me go get the raised panel cutter. Okay, here's our raised panel cutter here now. And what we're going to do is, again, change bits again. Okay? I'm kind of showing you how, the reason we're doing this, we're kind of showing you how easy it is to operate this router table here. All we do is just pop that bit out, and we're going to stick our raised panel cutter into there, snug it up, and we're ready to go. It's already set to the right height. Now, what we're going to do also is change inserts, remember? So we just pivot our fence out of the way, the insert drops out, and here's our raised panel insert coming in right here. Okay? Our fence drops into our pivot point, and we're ready to cut. Now, what we're going to do this time, we're not going to go, if there's the bearing, okay, if we do that, we're hogging out a very large cut. So what I'm going to do is move that ahead a little bit, and we'll take this panel cut in 2 passes. It makes it a lot safer doing it. Also, when you have a panel cutter in there, you want to slow the speed of that router down a little bit because it's a large cutter. Okay, you can see how we slowed the speed down. Now we're going to take our panel, again in the instructions it tells you how to come about the sizes. Put the good side down, and we also made a push block to push that through with right like that. Okay, so we'll make our panel cuts, and when you do them, always go across the grain first and then finish up with the grain. So we'll go across, with the grain, across, and then with the grain finishing up. That way you don't get any chip out going across the grain. So let's come into here. Okay. That's our first cut. We're starting to get our panel cut here on the back and the front, giving us a 1/4 of an inch that's going to go into that groove. But what we want to do now is move that fence back to the bearing and make our second pass. Right there. Just pivot the fence back, lock it. This will be our second and final pass. Right there is my finished raised panel. Now, to glue that panel up, what we have, the panel, I'm covering some stuff that's in our other video, but the panel is a 1/4 of an inch narrower than your rail, and we do that on purpose because this panel has to expand and contract. Well, inside of our 2 stiles right here, and on our top rail and the bottom rail, we put these little panel line strips. I'll show you what they are. I'll get a couple of our panel line strips and show you what they are. Okay, here's our panel line strips. They're little rubber strips like this. All you do is take a pencil, insert it into that pattern cut, right like that. Just push them down there. And when I do an average door, I'll install them one here, 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 and here, and on the top rail here, here, and here, and here. Okay, we've got them installed on all of our stiles and rails here now. We're ready to glue up that door. Okay, to glue up the door now, what we're going to do is put the 2 together here. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the back of the cope cut, a little bit on the inside here, and a little bit right there, okay? And it goes into here. Now line it up. When you do your stile, stay away. Don't get too close to this edge, because when you put these two together, you don't want any glue squirting out in that corner. If you do, you're going to have a hard time getting that glue out of there. Okay. All right. What we're going to do next is put the panel in. Okay. And a lot of guys will sand that panel ahead of time if you want, but a lot of guys also will stain it. I don't stain it. I use an oil-based stain, and that stain runs underneath there good enough for me. Okay, we're going to push that panel in right there. We're going to glue the other piece right here. Again, staying back. Don't want to get too close to that edge. If you do get some glue, and it does cord out in here, and you probably will, I still do, what works good for getting that glue out of there is white vinegar and water. Mix it up 50-50, and it does a great way of eliminating that glue. Okay, put a little bit here and here. Same thing on our stile. Being careful not to put too much. The glues they got nowadays, it doesn't take much glue. Okay, we got that close. All right, we're ready to stick in our clamps. Clamps, I use these old-fashioned pony clamps. I just got hung up on them. They haven't changed ever since. I've been using them for 20 years, I think. Clamp that up there. Make sure you're flush on the bottom and the top and squeeze it up. And now, a lot of guys too now, when they get that glue oozing out right there, what they'll do is take a wet rag, and I like to keep water off this. What I usually do is just take some sawdust, right like that, and rub that on all my glue right away while it's still wet. And that does a great job for me. All right, that door's made, it's clamped up. We'll let it set for a while, and then we'll show you how we do the detailed edge around the outside. But while this is drying now, we're going to show you how to make this drawer front. Okay, we're ready to put our edge detailed on our drawer front. Okay, right here's our drawer front bit out of our set. Okay, we got to change bits, and again, keep the same height. All I do is pop this bit out and put our drawer front bit in, and we're already set to the right height. That's the beauty about this set, it really is. Okay, we'll take our fence, drops into our pivot point, and we pivot it so that the bearing is flush with the fence. Lock it down, we're ready to go. This bit is big enough that we can't put an insert ring in there. Okay, again, we'll take a push block now, and what we're going to do is do the in grain first, then with the grain, in grain. Finish up going with the grain. Okay, we got a little bit smaller bit now, so we can turn the speed up a little bit. Right there is our drawer front, a little coved edge with a radius. Okay, now that door we made should be dry. Let's go get that door out of the clamps, and we'll show you how to install the drawer front and the door. Okay, here's our door. It's all done now. Okay, one last thing we have to do to that door is put that detailed edge around the outside. Okay, and to do that, again, we're going to change bits. This is our drawer front. We're going to put our door front in. Okay, and that's that small OG bit right there. So again, all it is a matter of popping this bit out and dropping that bit in. Everything should automatically be set, preset for you. Pop this into here. Put our center ring in. This is a little bit smaller bit. Okay. Take our straight edge here. That's a small bit, so we're gonna get rid of this zero clearance right here. And they're snug. And we're gonna put this zero clearance in. Fence drops into our pivot. There's our bearing. Lock it up, and we're ready to cut. Okay, we're going to take our door and put it face side down and run it through. Again, this is the end grain, you might say, so we want to do the end grain first.